Hey, thank you for listening to the MindMeld podcast. That's what this is, and you are listening to it, so I thank you for that. This might be the first episode ever that you're hearing. I have grand intentions of publishing so much content in the very near future, as I have 8 or 9 episodes already filmed, but I'm going through all this editing right now, and I've decided that I'm going to be doing a mix of audio-only episodes and then video episodes, and in a scenario like today, which I'm going to describe to you in very specific detail, this is going to be an audio-only episode. If you've not listened to the MindMeld podcast before, basically what I do is I live here in Austin, Texas, and I'm in advertising, and I make music partially for a living. But I love talking to people. I love connecting, and I'm really interested in telling the stories of the various residents of this fine city and that run the whole gamut from homeless people and drug addicts and rock stars to Fortune 500 CEOs and startup wizards and everything in between. So really looking forward to doing that on a regular basis. Right, what's going on right now in Texas has given me ample time to be able to dive into some of this. And while like I said, I have a bunch of episodes that are going to be coming out really soon that I already recorded, it felt appropriate to just hop on a microphone and start doing this episode today. Today is February 17th, 2021, and we are in the middle of a fucking polar vortex, and it sucks. All varieties of balls and dick, all of them together, living and dead, totally unwanted, and it sucks. Yeah, so I just came in from outside of, let me take a step back here. So 2 weeks ago, it was 80 degrees on a Saturday. Starting 3 days ago, it got down into single-digit temperatures with a lot of moisture. And starting on Monday of this week, basically everything has gone to complete shit for a wide variety of people. And basically started off with 4 million people at the end of Monday had no power across Texas. And a huge portion of that is in Austin, but it's all over the state, like central, north, and eastern. And people are just getting fucked. So there's people, almost everyone that I know right now, we're well into the third day of this shit going on, and people are trapped at home. And it's just that, Austin is not, and Texas in general is not equipped for this. Like, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's totally normal to have sub-zero temperatures for months at a time and feet of snow and crazy wind chill, but it's dependable, and you know that that's happening all the time. So the city is equipped with salt trucks and snow plows, and people know how to drive in that kind of weather. And I don't necessarily blame Austin for not being totally prepared for this, but this just went to show how absolutely fucked this city, and I guess any city, can be when hit with weather that they don't expect. And there's certain things like, an earthquake is more than likely not going to happen here because we know where tectonic plates are. That's a pretty predictable thing on a long-term basis. But, I get it. You have to prioritize certain things over others. But I think that what has happened in the last 3 days, and is probably going to continue for the next 2, has been more than enough to justify some substantial investment in the city for a lot of things. So there's millions of people without power. There are pipes bursting all over the city and all over Texas. My buddy of mine who owns police scanners and is just really into keeping a finger on the pulse of kind of the crazy shit that's happening around sent me this link. At one point at Monday night, there was 132 911 calls about burst pipes. And if you've not experienced that before, it fucking sucks, especially when you are trapped inside. And a lot of people were losing your pipes freeze, so water stops coming into your house, and there's multiple different ways that you can take care of that, but mainly people a little too late just turn on their faucets and wait for the water to start flowing. And if there's some, you crank up the heat in your house or something, you start heating up the portion of the pipe that is frozen, it expands, it bursts the pipe, and it's just one more thing on top of the giant shit pile that you don't need to deal with, which is what has been happening for the last 3 days. Yesterday, I was seeing everything going on with pipes bursting. I'm getting texts from friends all over the city. I thought it might have just been like a pocket of Austin or something, but no one's got power. And with a lot of people, your heat is tied to your power. So a lot of these people are not only sitting in the dark with no power, but they're living in places that aren't built with the anticipation that you're going to be hitting, sub-zero weather. So these people are freezing their asses off, let alone, I mean, I can't even begin to think of what the homeless in the city are going through, of which there are a lot. And I really, really hope that with the newer, kind of refreshed efforts in the city to focus on those truly in need and the, community of people suffering from mental health issues and things of that nature. I really hope that there was a concerted effort proactively, at least, or if nothing else, just once it became clear that things were getting really bad, I hope that there were people, representatives from the city, whatever, from the missions, going out there and getting people on buses or vans or whatever and getting them out of the cold, because it's just the combination of the cold and the water. And yeah, it all sucks. So I went out to get supplies to go walk. Driving's impossible. Everything here is just a fucking giant sheet of ice. So driving's a terrible idea. But even just like walked to the end of my block, started heading down Montopolis, and there's just like cars and fucking ditches or, big ass pickup trucks that feel comfortable going out there. But then, once they stop, they're like at a stoplight and then their wheels are just fucking spinning and no one knows how to drive. Everyone's like slamming on their brake. Everyone is like turning the wrong way when they start skidding. So it keeps getting worse and worse. And the city is not prepared to like maintain the roads and whatnot. Pipes are bursting along the streets, which then is flooding the streets more, which adds more ice. And then, last couple of days, the temperature has been going up to like just above freezing. And then so you get like some of that melted. Basically, the ice is like freezing and melting and freezing over and over, which is not good. So went out to basically just tried calling like gas stations and like a Dollar General or shit around me. But because the power is down, that means everyone else's like phone lines are down too, apparently. Which typically means that if you're even open, then your cash register system or your payment system is probably not even working either. So I got $100 in cash. I got into my, Polar Vortex post-apocalyptic gear and hit the streets and started seeing that like a ton of these places are either completely closed, like shut down, or like I went to a gas station that's about 3/4 of a mile away and there were people, like there were workers in there and the lights were on, but still the doors were closed and locked with just a sign that says we are closed due to weather. So fortunately, a couple miles away, was able to find a Shell station that had a convenience store that was open. And as I'm in there, and everyone had the same idea. Everyone's going out like looking to get whatever supplies they can because it's not supposed to get warm until next week. The city's been saying we don't know when we're going to be able to get power back on. It all sucks. But anyway, so I'm in there and it's, I'm collecting supplies. I'm seeing all these other people collecting supplies. I'm looking behind me out on the street and seeing these cars hitting into each other and just thinking about like how much this sucks with like all of these things added on top of each other with like people who don't have water, people who don't have power, people who don't have heat, the internet being down, which also really hurts in terms of just like the dissemination of important information and updates about like, getting your service back and everything like that. And then it occurs to me as I'm in here, like, oh yeah, there's a fucking pandemic too. So I'm in this giant, hot, crowded, small, not giant. It's just, it's a very small, compact area with a ton of sweaty people who all walk there because no one can drive. And we're all in masks and whatever, but it was just a very kind of just additional, like, surprise gut punch, like, hey, don't forget that everything from 2020 still exists in 2021 on top of this shit. So I got like a backpack full of water and some snacks and some other essentials and whatnot, and then trekked all the way back to my place. And then as soon as I got back to my place, I was very glad that I made that trip, because then Austin sends out this fucking boil notice, basically letting everyone know that there have been breakages in the main water lines all over the city. And this is happening all over Texas too, which then it causes this combination of there can be water contamination. And then because shit's freezing, it apparently stops the water processing plant from operating at the levels that it normally would to be able to process the amount of water that's going out to the city. And then that puts them in a position where they either try to like mitigate the fallout by like getting the word out to as many people as possible, saying we're going to keep water on, but if you're going to ingest that water or give it to your dog or whatever, boil it first. But then, or they just shut off the water, which is also really bad. And then you have to factor in the fact that like they know for a fact that 4 million people don't have power. So it's not like people aren't watching the news, and there's a lot of people who can't even text each other because they live in like a cell dead spot or their fucking phone died. There's people who maybe have a car that can handle this weather, but they're stuck in their apartment complex because the fucking garage door to leave is controlled by the power of the building as a whole. And, this is Austin, Texas. This is a city that's booming and blowing up, and these are brand new construction buildings, and you would think that there would be something like emergency generators for like the core most essential things, but nope. So there are hundreds or thousands of people who are stuck inside these apartment buildings with no backup generators, no heat, no power, no water. But even though they have no water, that hasn't stopped a lot of the sprinkler system pipes from bursting. So a lot of these, like the hallways are flooding, unoccupied units that didn't have their water turned off, those pipes are bursting. People can't drink their water. People can't leave their place. People who try to leave their place end up in a fucking ditch. And it sucks. It really sucks. And it's kind of just like additionally frustrating coming from a place that is so, I fucking hate winter. It's the at least 50% of the reason why I moved to Austin. And it's frustrating to move over 1,000 miles due south of where you grow up, with one of the specific tensions being that I'm going to escape winter. And then this shit happens, it's a relatively first world problem, but still very, very frustrating. And then additionally, on top of that, because everything's relative, it's frustrating to when I was a kid, the Milwaukee school system and the surrounding areas were still able to it might be sub-zero temperatures and 2 feet of snow on the ground. But if those plow trucks were out all fucking night and salt is down on the ground and the buses are running on time, like school's going to stay open. These, like the New England, a lot of the upper Midwest, like these areas have just become acclimated to this weather and are appropriately supplied with it. They have the plow trucks, they have the salt trucks. Houses are built with a type of insulation that considers, takes into factor sub-zero temperatures and things like that. So pipes are insulated differently, walls are insulated differently. So it's crazy living in a place in the same country where you can see something that is like objectively a fucking nightmare scenario in terms of winter conditions, but everything's pretty much going on as normal. It's like, well, it's Milwaukee in February. Yeah, it's going to be impossible to get around, but we're still going to fucking do it. Life goes on. People go to work, kids go to school, fucking Walgreens is open, whatever. And then here it's not even sub-zero. I mean, it's single digit temperature, but then like 4 inches of snow and a couple inches of ice, and it like decimates the city, fucking cripples the city. Just the nature in and of itself, just the existence of the snow and ice crippled the city. But then add on top of that, just clear infrastructure flaws that are present really throughout the Texas and probably present throughout the whole fucking South have just become readily apparent in terms of how quickly we can be revoked of our ability to communicate with each other or our ability to stay warm. I mean, there are millionaires out there right now who maybe they have backup generators, but there's people who maybe feel like they are sitting pretty in everything in life and they have everything that they want and feel completely comfortable and safe and are dealing with some real shit right now that they just didn't anticipate. And you got to walk that fine line of you can't be 100% ready for every single natural disaster, but you also can't. We as a city, but also as an individual, or if you have a family and kids, like we need to learn from scenarios like this, and myself included. Like I don't own a fucking shovel. Like I don't own a hose. I have one of the very popular like Zero Escape lawns that you see all over Austin. I just haven't had much of a need to own a hose, but if I did have a hose, I would be able to be using like hot water from inside my house to be like handling some of the ice buildup that's been happening all over the fucking place. I've been very fortunate that I do still have power. That's how I'm recording this. I do have water, although the boil notice is still going. I actually just got a text from the city of Austin basically saying like, don't drink that shit or boil that shit. That's exactly what it said in the text. Boil that shit. But my heater broke. I woke up in the middle of the night to this like clunking sound that sounded like a car crashing into the side of my fucking house, and quickly realized that it was this tremendous amount of ice buildup on the inside of my heat pump, which is basically this fan on the outside of my house that is bringing air inside my house, which then brings it into the furnace, which it heats that and then distributes it throughout the house. So the heat pump goes down, which means my heat goes down. So I spent about an hour outside today with a hair dryer and a hammer and a screwdriver and some boiling water, just fucking de-icing this thing with the hopes that just removing the ice would get this fan going again. But it's been a couple of hours and nothing. So that was a fun exercise. Maybe the thing I need to learn from that is, have, I don't know, tarps ready. I don't know. I don't fucking know. It's interesting. Usually with this podcast, I will almost always be doing interviews with at least one person, but typically two people. But given the scenario that I'm put in and I'm trapped in my house, just like so many other people, I figured it just made sense to take the time and hop on here and, kind of assess the situation. But also, as I wrap this up, I just wanted to note that, like, I've seen a lot of awesome community action happening across Texas, but also just Austin. I really appreciate the amount of people reaching out from across the country to me in the last couple of days. I guess this is such an anomaly that's happening in Texas right now that I think it's making national news. And, usually with something like that, you see a big uptick in resources being sent to that area and like donations to charity going up. Stuff like that is cool. But even within my group of friends, or like I'm still a member of the Facebook group that was specifically for the apartment building that I lived in before getting my house here at South Shore District. And it's cool to see this community that is typically dedicated to talking about like how fucking garbage the front desk people are, or how the lease price went up an insane amount, or how the college kids won't shut the fuck up and they're like bumping, EDM next to the pool at 3:30 a.m. on a fucking Tuesday. This community has totally transformed into like we're all in this together resource thing. I mean, there's people, like someone said like, I was supposed to go out of town tomorrow and I just wasn't ready, and I have an infant child and I have no diapers here. Can someone help me out? People's dogs are getting fed. People are, hooking people up with some ganj. Whatever you need. There's people with extra blankets. There's people who can come help like turn pipes off and shit, because even the apartment complexes, maintenance people aren't on staff. There are people who are able to like jump each other's cars. There's people who are able to provide like, for whatever reason, they had things that they can cook with that don't rely on power. And it's just amazing how small your world becomes when a lot of the utilities and luxuries that we take for granted go away simultaneously. So Austin is an entire city, but these people are trapped inside of their building. Like that's kind of their whole world right now. Like they can't open the garage door to get their cars out. Everyone is dealing with no power. Everyone's dealing with no water. Everyone's dealing with no heat. Everyone is dealing with pipes bursting in their units, in the sprinkler system, and they're just taking care of each other. And it's cool. And I'm sure that there's a whole, menagerie of different types of people that normally, if you dug into politics or religion or something, these two people after an hour of talking, they would be like, well, you're a fucking idiot. But like all that shit goes away. Like, and it's great. And I truly hope, in fact, I believe in my heart of hearts that is happening across Austin right now, and hopefully across Texas. And I just, 2020 was just a fucking dumpster fire, and 2021 just needs to be a lot better, regardless of who's sitting in the White House or whatever. We need positivity. We need community. We need to come together to handle shit like this and put our other bullshit aside. I mean, we can get back to it, but there's a lot of people out there taking the opportunity to like talk shit about green energy right now. Like if we had clean coal and fucking whatever, none of this would have happened. It's bullshit. There's this meme going around right now. It shows a helicopter spraying some chemicals on the blades of a wind turbine that is actually from a staged test in Scandinavia to see if in an emergency situation could these turbines be mobilized with a specific like chemical combo. But it's just because this is how the fucking internet works. Someone finds a photo that aligns with some sort of narrative that they want to reinforce, and it requires no fact checking. You don't have to have a source on there or whatever. You just have a photo, make a statement about it, and all of a sudden that somehow becomes fact on social media. So I've seen a bunch of people posting this picture from like 7 years ago, which is not from Texas and has nothing to do with our power grid, saying like, oh, that's fucking ironic. A wind turbine that's made out of materials from fossil fuel is being saved by a helicopter that's made out of materials with fossil fuel that's using fossil fuel to be in the air and being sprayed with chemicals just so it can work again. Fuck you, green energy, blah, blah, blah. Not only is that all of that inaccurate, and not only is a very, very small percentage of Texas's power grid reliant upon renewable energy, it's just unnecessary. Like, who are you scoring points for? What does this achieve by you screaming into the void? Like, see, motherfuckers, I just like, people are legit dying and getting frostbite and going hungry, and they're freaked out. There's people who can't get their fucking medicine right now. There's people who can't get to their elderly parents to see if they're okay because they don't even have fucking phone service. Like, now is not the time to be trying to score points for whatever fucking team you think you're on and whatever this is achieving, let alone if you're good, if you're going to be trying to like prove compelling points or whatever, can you at least take 2 fucking seconds to fact check your goddamn meme before you throw it up there and just assume it's a statement of fact? Like, hey, I found it on the internet and someone wrote something else with conviction. Therefore this must be true. It goes along with my confirmation bias and it aligns with a point that I've been wanting to prove. And, despite the fact that people are suffering and this whole fucking state is like crippled with some bullshit right now, just pump the brakes. Like, I get it. All sides are guilty of this. I'm sure I'm guilty of this. But I'm just saying, like, right now, stop. Like, can you just wait a fucking week until shit's not on fire and then we can talk about it? But like, just take that energy for 2 seconds and direct it towards something positive, or just shut the fuck up. Like, the absence of your bullshit or silence as your 2 options. If you're not going to do anything good, if you're not going to check in with people, see if they're okay, if you're not going to donate to some sort of like Red Cross emergency services, anything like that, if you're not going to actually do something constructive and positive with this energy and time that you have, just do nothing, because it's still way better for humanity than whatever fucking slam dunk you think you're achieving by posting some bullshit fucking meme that you think is fact. Anyways, sorry, total rant there. But all in all, I've been very enthused and positive and optimistic about the unity and community that I'm seeing in Austin and across Texas right now. I do really hope that the city that we all live in learns from this. And I'm not saying you need to go out and get a fucking armada of plow trucks and salt trucks, but clearly we're not there. Clearly we don't have the resources that we needed to handle this. And this wasn't even severe just in terms of quantity and duration, but it's just like, once the ice gets on the ground, it's fucking there if the temperature doesn't change. And we can't just like wait this out. Because that also applies to tow trucks and emergency vehicles, and like even HEBs across the city are closed because they can't get their fucking trucks to the store to get people more food. Like, there's it's amazing how like 2 inches of ice and a lack of some utility vehicles can just cripple a multi-billion-dollar tech forward new Silicon Valley place. We need to not forget that we aren't running the entire show here, and we are at the whim and mercy of factors that we can't control. So let's all help each other out. Let's be realistic about how to solve these problems. It's not binary. It's not like, okay, we got totally fucked and we were totally unprepared this week, so now we need to spend $1 billion to become just as prepared as Wisconsin. Like, baby steps. Progress is progress. No one will probably ever be as fully prepared as they need to be for every single problem that could possibly happen. But let's fucking start somewhere. And also, a really good place to start is just be a decent, or let's do it. Let's set the bar at don't be a piece of shit during an emergency. It's pretty low. It's basically on the ground. So if you can do better than that, congratulations. But let's not be pieces of shit. Let's actually strive to show some empathy and help each other out. Then from there, let's all hopefully be a part of a constructive dialogue that can lead to a place like Austin being prepared on a city level, but also individually. Like, let's all, I learned I don't have a flashlight, and I should probably have a fucking flashlight. Like, small things, if we're all doing that and we're all learning small little things, the more that we're all individually prepared for the next thing, the less of a major strain there will be on the entire system. So I think that this is a community combined effort here, and I hope that I'm gonna throw this up right now. This is gonna be I'm gonna publish it in real time, and I hope, for those of you that are bored as fuck and have no power or whatever are still able to listen to a podcast, and feel free to hit me up on social at the MindMeld Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I got a fucking website that's pretty mediocre, but I'm working on it. And I'm really looking forward to doing episodes on a regular basis when I can't interview people for, because the fucking COVID or everything is frozen and the roads are a death trap. I'll occasionally hop on here and do an episode of just what I'm thinking about, and happy to share with y'all. I would love it if you liked and subscribed and shared some of this shit with your friends and family. If you want to be on the show, or if you have someone that you think from Austin has like a compelling story, or they're funny or whatever, shoot me a note. I want to talk to people, and I'm really excited to get this going on a regular basis. So thank you again for listening to the MindMeld Podcast with Dave Perry. Thanks.